Just for fair warning, this video is going to be a boomer ranting on the internet, shaking my fist at the sky, probably screaming at kids to get off my lawn. And I'm okay with that. I am completely willing to deal with the repercussions of who I am as a person and the thoughts that I have that come out of my head. I'm good with me. If you, for whatever reason, are not good with me, for whatever reason that may be, just know that in reacting to this video in any way, upvote, downvote, comment, that ends up pushing this video algorithmically out to more people. And all that will do is help me earn a better living. So if you plan on making a hateful comment, just know that that hateful comment helps me. Okay? Okay. This is kind of an atypical video for me. Although there are people that will say that all I ever do is complain, which I love. That's hilarious. I don't normally tend to get involved in vitriolic trolling or snide comments left in a comments section of one of my YouTube videos, aside from memeing on people for shitpost content that I toss up on my Onepeg Slapbacks Twitter account. Shout out to the handful of people that actually follow that dogwater content. But from time to time, the comments section seems to get a general air about itself of superiority, of them knowing something that I didn't, or before I did, and there's always a dozen bros around somewhere that seem to want to make sure that I know my place.
Shut up, streamer, you're a joke and your content is bad.
Right? Aside from the incredibly obvious aspect of these comments never really being anything new or interesting, with one-liners constantly being pulled from the same cliff notes that every single troll seems to have, there were a few over the last video that I made that seemed to think that their criticism in my saying that I had spurned the devs into adjusting the ballistic values of ammo at range was valid. It wasn't. The criticism was not valid. If you haven't seen in my last video, I had stated that the video prior to that one, where I provided solid verifiable data, had generated a response from the Tarkov development team to adjust the damage fall-off of ammo at range. This apparently ruffled the feathers of a few people, and the comments therein attempted to take that credit from me that I had not only given myself, but had really given the majority of it to the people that generated the statistical information over at tarkov-ballistics.com. There were even comments that went so far as to say that there were thousands of people on Reddit screaming about how the ballistics in the game were messed up and how Trey24K's video came first, and even ones you guys likely don't know about. Like how Veritas also had Nikita in his stream one day, shot a scav at range in the head with 995, and the scav didn't die. And Nikita said, "Looks fine to me, LOL." For one, I never read Reddit. The last time I was there, the most upvoted thread in the entirety of the sub was one where nearly 5,000 people had upvoted it, devoting a bashing to Clean, who's a friend of mine. It has forever been and continues to be a place where the vast majority of the community dislikes streamers and content creators nearly universally. And had I made a thread that said, quote, "It feels like 556 is off," unquote, it likely would have been met with a ton of pushback about how streamers were trying to mold the game to something that they wanted rather than something that benefited the community. The one cardinal truth that nearly every content creator friend that I have, whether they average 12 viewers or 12,000, is that the subreddit is overwhelmingly toxic toward content creators. So I don't read it. But because of the claims that thousands of people were screaming about how the new ballistics on Reddit were being talked about and something was wrong with the damage, I went to Reddit and searched every term I thought I could possibly find that had something to do with ballistics and scoured the sub for threads that may have had anything to do with it between when the wipe went live and when my video was uploaded. I found one thread, 8 comments that predated my video. That one thread was a single paragraph by a guy named Rusky Robocop who posted about how SSAAP wasn't one-tapping players at 100 meters and 995 wasn't working at 200. That's it. No large sample sizes, no method, no showing of work, no steps taken. I want to be clear that this video isn't being made as something in defense of myself or my position. Quite frankly, the people that find my claims of me being proud of my accomplishments to be something off-putting for them to where they feel like they need to attempt to drag me in the comments can just go pound salt. I genuinely do not value you aside from your contribution to an algorithm boost that quite literally gets me paid here. You help me generate cash to feed my family. If I feel anything toward you, it's gratitude. Kind of in the way that someone would feel gratitude toward a snide customer at a restaurant leaving a meager tip. You're forgettable, but I deal with you so I can pay my mortgage. Now, that obviously doesn't go to the people that have been here supporting me right along. You guys are the real ones. You know that I love you. The core of my community, you guys are amazing people. and you will continue to be amazing people. And I value you not only as people and people that view me, but as community members. But this actually speaks to something larger. More on that in a second. Following this timeline, it had been repeatedly mentioned that I wasn't the first person to say anything about this bug, of which I never called it a bug. The development team did after they fixed it, but I digress. The thing is, I never once said I was first. I did claim some large amount of responsibility for getting this bug fixed, but I never said I was first. Trey24K made the first video that people remember seeing. I never watched it. I don't have the time, to be completely honest. I'm a dad. I got 3 kids, and I work 100 hours a week. I don't have time to take in content from other people. I wish I did. But Trey is a good friend of mine. We talk pretty often. 2 days before I released my video, Trey sent me a Twitter DM saying I needed to look into the damage fall off of rounds at a distance because something was wrong with them. I said I would. Looking back on it, Trey's video spoke to what everyone else had said in the past but had not acted further on. Something didn't feel right. See, I've known about the ballistic issues experienced in Tarkov since day 2 or 3 of the wipe. The thing is, when speaking on a subject like a potentially game-changing and game-altering issue, you can't just bring something like that to the table when you use a media format like the one that I've chosen. Because the first thing that people end up countering that with is, where's your work? Show your work. How did you determine this? And herein lies the difference in something purely anecdotal and verifiable data. Time spent, work, and transparency. The videos that I have made in the past regarding Tarkov's ballistics and how they work has always been rooted in research. Whether it was shotgun pellet dispersion, which I got a change for, bullet dispersion issues when firing through chain link fences, which I got a change for, bullet penetration issues, malfunction rates, countless numbers of hours spent doing nothing but firing into walls at various distances because I heard a rumor of an issue and had set out to prove it or to disprove it. And in the case of someone like Tower, who is the person that has spent the last 4 years of his life diving into the inner workings of Tarkov's entire ballistics and optics system, of which, by the way, the optics rework is almost all because of him, I always overwhelmingly gave the credit to him because that's where the credit was due. It is one thing to claim that you have a feeling about something being off or not. It is another to diagnose the reason why. Tower and I prefer the mechanics approach. If your car had a strange noise coming from the right front corner and your brake pedal was vibrating when you stepped on it, and you brought it to a mechanic to get it figured out, that's saying something felt wrong. It is another thing to know that it means it's a warped brake rotor and know exactly what parts you need to fix it. That's a mechanics approach. The Reddit threads were a pedal vibration report. It spoke to symptomatic issues. Tower's research in my video was a presentation on why it's a warped rotor, so that BSG knew what part needed fixing to save them time. Ours was a diagnosis that provided physical numbers and something that showed provably that something was off. And this is because the Tarkov Ballistics website uses the BSG verified formula as to how those values are perceived in the game. Those numbers are real. They are accurate. They are verifiable. The one Reddit thread and its one paragraph is not verifiable. The reason why this entire manner of thinking is problematic is because the community has an overwhelming desire to keep everyone in the community in check for some reason or another. Veritas makes a long-winded video as to what's wrong with the AI, and 20% of the comments in response end up flaming him as if he doesn't know what he's talking about, even though he's been in the game as a software developer for his entire adult professional life, generated a free ballistics app without ad support for the community in his free time that's an invaluable resource for everyone, fixed an early massive bug with scav aim after having to prove it to Nikita twice, and outlined the issue with guns in the game having base zeroing problems according to the speed of a particular round that never changes, which was based on Tower's research and something that Tower and I explained to him during a live stream one day. That's how that video got made. But you didn't see us sitting back going like, well, we were the reason why Veritas got that idea. If it wasn't for those efforts, I believe, and I believe most others would agree, that most of these issues would have taken significantly longer to be fixed. To discredit the video that I had generated is to discredit people that have spent years of their life working behind the scenes on a volunteer basis to bring about the changes that everyone has benefited from. The community at large, especially on Reddit, will say that there's a problem, but then they don't prove it, leaving other people to do the actual work. Then when that actual work gets done and the people doing the work and popularizing it attempt to take credit for it, the response is, well, someone on Reddit said it first and so mentioned it in a live stream once, so it's not like it was you. That's a clown shoes argument, bro. If you are someone that thinks knocking down the hours of effort that people are voluntarily putting in to prove or disprove arbitrary statements made in a Reddit thread just because the thread came first, like they owe you something, need to step away from the PC. Ideas mean nothing. Action is what makes things happen. Actual work. Slagging people that are doing this kind of work makes us not want to do the work, and believe it or not, slows down the development cycle. The change that happened to the ballistic system was because of the guys at Tarkov Ballistics generating the tables, and for me having popularized it at like the same time. They did the majority of the work, and I credited them for it. I stumbled upon it and ended up being able to do the PR for them. Our stuff lined up. The fix was a variable that was overlooked being added to a damage drop-off formula. That isn't a 10 days in the making change. That's a cup of coffee and an adjustment to a single line of code that Nikita could have done while on a live podcast. But by all means, continue to slag people that actually use the scientific method to prove a hypothesis rather than just bitching in a subreddit thread. That's definitely going to make things move faster.